Oh my God, hey, Jordan Luke Gage.
Oh my God, hey, Mickey Jo.
It's very nice to see you.
You too. It feels like I saw you quite recently, actually, at the Titanic. It was the press day.
We did a little interview moment. I came to visit you in rehearsals.
Yes, that was mad. So much has happened since then. It's crazy.
That was the last time I saw you on stage, but you've been very busy since then, already into another show, and you had a cute little destination wedding. You got married.
I did. I had a little Italian escape wedding. It was really beautiful. And then we did like a kind of mini moon there for a few days afterwards. We've got our honeymoon at Christmas, but it's been a really, really fun summer, finishing up Titanic, getting married, and now starting this crazy new venture, which we are right in the thick of in tech at the moment. So it's all coming to light, and it's very exciting. It's very exciting. We're still like finding ourselves in this piece, and it's been a real what's the word? It's been a journey with this show, because I think we all believe in it so much, and we've faced some trials and tribulations along the way so far. But I think when you're creating anything original, that's always going to happen. And I feel like we're almost there with it, and we're about to open next week, and it's exciting. It's really cool. Yeah.
Fantastic cast, intriguing premise. Tell us a little bit more about the story of Saving Mozart.
Yeah, so it's essentially the story of how Mozart rose to fame, and the trials and tribulations that he faced along the way, the people who supported him in getting there, and the people who were hindering him along the way as well. He had a very overbearing father. He had a rival who I play, Antonio Salieri, who was the most successful classical musician at the time and really changed the language of opera and classical music in the 18th century. And Salieri sees Mozart coming up and is very threatened by his position. And so we have this rivalry throughout, which hopefully maybe gets resolved at some point during the piece. But it's also essentially a love letter to women and the females in his life that brought him up to that place. And Mozart was very influenced by his older sister, Nanelle, who was a super successful musician when she was younger. But obviously, at the time, women weren't allowed to perform. And so her career was cut short very, very early, and Mozart rose through past her. And it's been so interesting reading about it and researching, because I mean, we've heard Mozart's music, but most of us don't know that that story happened, and that it was really his sister that kind of like tutored him to get to that place, and he owed so much of himself to her. So it's been a real lesson in history. It's been exciting. Yeah,
that's a detail of the whole thing that I don't think I really discovered until I was reading about this show. And so it's great that people are going to find that out. I feel like in this sort of post-Hamilton, post-Six era, we're uncovering a lot of the forgotten or neglected women of history,
totally,
which is really exciting.
Yeah, and it's also got that like Six kind of female pop ballad vibe to a lot of the score, which I think the fans will absolutely love. And like Amy Atkinson, Erin Caldwell, Gloria, they're all phenomenal. So yeah, the music is really fantastic.
Yeah. And with yourself as well, vocals in this show is what I'm anticipating.
I've managed to squeeze a B flat in somewhere in there, which I feel like is like my niche now. Every show I need to like try and get a B flat, and it's ridiculous. They always ask me in rehearsals, like, where can we put the B flat? I'm like, guys, there's more to me than a B flat. No, but I have a couple of really cool moments in the show, which Taylor, our director and choreographer, we've kind of created this language to the piece, and it's very ensemble based, and the movement of not just the actors but also the furniture and the props and the set, it's like all kind of, it combines into this world which is really unique, and it's really special.
It's exciting. Sounds very interesting.
It is.
Now, one of the characters I do know historically, because I'm not a music history scholar, but I've seen Amadeus, is Salieri, and he is very much the anti-hero villain of that story. Would you say, does it feel like a villainous role in this, or is he just an adversary?
I mean, I will say I feel like I'm in my villain era right now.
You are, yeah.
Having the last few shows, I've been the villain. Yeah, he's definitely the anti-hero villain for sure. I would like to think that he has some redeeming features. I feel like you can only successfully play somebody who is a villain if they also counterbalance with qualities which we all possess, which are goodness and kindness and generosity as well. So I don't think he's like a one-dimensional bad guy. I'm trying to find more interesting ways of showing the different sides of his personality, so that when he does have those moments, they hit even more, if that makes sense. But for sure, he's the villain of the piece. Yeah.
And like you say, villain era, and I mean, a fun, campy villain moment that just happened in Titanique. But a lot of the characters you've played throughout your career have sort of become increasingly troubled and villainous as time has gone on. Toxic is a word. Toxic is. I was chatting to Jamie Moscato just the other day about the capacity for playing a lot of these toxic young men, and I can only think of a couple of roles that have just been really earnest, because I saw you do Hair briefly, concert moment, and also like Light in the Piazza, I want to say.
Which were both really only like 1 or 2 night shows. So I haven't had the opportunity to dive into just like a fully good person. Which
the toxicity has been these extended runs, just living with that.
But honestly, those are the roles that are the most fun to play.
Sure.
Like it's just, I mean, Halloween, everyone loves to dress up as the villain because like it's just fun to embody that. And that's a bad example. I just mean, it's really fun to kind of, play with the different dynamics of a person rather than, I don't know, I'm not saying I would never just want to play like the out and out romantic lead, but I think a lot of those roles at times I could see maybe becoming a bit boring to do every night, and I like to have the meat of a character, like a JD who has, the switch, and even Clyde, who you would say is would you say he's the hero of the piece? Probably not. He's the protagonist, but he also does terrible things. But people still root for him, and it's finding those roles that have the complexity of the characteristics that I find super interesting to play.
Yeah, and he doesn't identify that way because he's the hero of his story and Bonnie's as well, really.
Totally.
Is this the first time you're doing a show here at the other Palace? Because Heather's happened, but you did Heather's at the Haymarket.
Yeah, that's right. I did Heather's at the Haymarket. This is the first time I'm doing a show in the main studio. I did my workshop for Redcliffe downstairs, which was in the little studio. But no, first time on the main stage. It's a really cool space. The people here are great. The sound system is awesome. And it feels like a lot of work has gone into this theatre. I know it's been around for a long time, and they obviously had a refurbishment, I guess maybe like 8 to 10 years ago. But it feels like everything is, I don't know how to describe it. It feels clean and everything works well, which in a lot of West End theatres, we love the West End theatres, but a lot of the times they've been around for 100 years and things are falling apart and people don't see what's happening behind the stage and the pipes that are bursting and all of these crazy things. That's a whole show in itself and a behind the scenes TV show. So it's nice. I'm really enjoying this kind of like clean atmosphere.
Amazing. The things that come to matter once you actually get off stage and get into a run and go to work. Now let's talk about some of the shows and some of the roles that have brought you here. And rather than me telling you everything that you've been in on stage, I will ask the question and you can tell me what the answer is. Now, which is the role that you felt gave you a breakout, whatever that might mean to you? What's the role where you first sort of felt seen by the industry, maybe?
I would say that's actually a really hard question to answer, because I would say Strat in Battle of Hell was my first break into the West End. And that gave me the opportunity to lead a show. And it was the Dominion Theatre, one of the biggest theatres in the West End. So that was definitely a break for me. However, I would say Juliet then kind of like put me on the map and solidified me as a leading man. So I would probably say Juliet. And also I got that opportunity. It was crazy how that came about, but basically the director for Juliet, Luke Shepherd, and the writer, David West Reed, who also wrote Schitt's Creek, the Emmy Award-winning show, they were watching Bat Out of Hell one night because he was in London. And they were like, what should we go see? And they went to see Bat Out of Hell. And that's then how I got called in. So the next morning I got a call and they said, would you come in and meet for Romeo tomorrow? It was like a super quick turnaround. There were like 17 people in the room, from the producers, Max Martin, everyone. And then I booked that job. And so if it wasn't for Bat Out of Hell, it wouldn't have led to that. And if they weren't in the audience that night, who knows if I would have even been seen. So it was very much stars aligning in that moment. But yeah, I would say And Juliet was the show that solidified me, and the first show that I originated as well, which I think, I don't know, I think that says something in terms of, as an actor, it feels like when you're creating something, that's the work that I just feel the most fulfilled with. So I would probably say that it was my break. Yeah. Sorry, most long-winded answer.
No, good answer, good answer. And now it's this exciting Broadway success as well. You've been over to New York a few times, I know. How fun is it to see And Juliet up there?
I mean, it's just so amazing. When we created it, we knew it would eventually end up there. But I think it's really hard for shows to last on Broadway. Not most, but often they close after a few months. It's just so expensive to run. And the fact that it's still going, I think it's 3 years now. It's fantastic. It's so good. And also there are so many jukebox musicals around the world that have been created, and the fact that that's the one that is still going is a testament to the writing and the way that it's structured. I personally, obviously I'm biased, I think it's the best jukebox musical ever written. Just the way that the songs interweave within the show, it feels like the songs were written for that show. It's kind of crazy to think that they were standalone songs on their own. So yeah, I'm super proud of the success it's had, and to have played like a tiny part in that, originating it. Yeah, those are the kind of things that stay with you forever.
I could also ask you favorite costumes you've worn on stage, but I assume that very possibly might be the same show.
Yeah, I would say so. I'd say I always tend to play roles that have amazing jackets. I think
that was
like
such a great jacket.
Yeah, that was a great jacket. When I did Bat Out of Hell, I had this amazing jacket as well. Bonnie and Clyde, I had really cool period jackets and suits, and
a lot of summer runs though. I'm hearing warm on stage is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, or you're hearing hates the winter, doesn't want to leave the house and go to work. Yeah, no, I have tended to do a lot of summer runs. I would say the Bonnie and Clyde costumes as well. I did love those. I loved like how dapper the suits were, and also his evolution from the beginning, being like a street urchin at the beginning, and how that costume reflected that into his evolution. Yeah, I really enjoyed wearing those clothes. Yeah, I love a costume.
I have a theory about where we might end up with this one. What is the role that has challenged you the most throughout your career?
Yeah, Clyde, I would say. Is that what you were expecting? Yes, definitely. It was, I would say each of the roles I've played have been challenging in their own way. And prior to that, I would have said Strat and Bat Out of Hell, because it was just relentless and the vocal was crazy, and the level of energy to jump around the stage with fire going off all around you, it was madness. But Clyde, there was something about Clyde in the way that it's structured, where you barely leave the stage. You're using every part of your voice. You're singing super high, singing super low, screaming, whispering, which is quite damaging. And then just the depth of the scenes as well, and the material that you're tackling and the emotion, and that was like such a journey, and I would always feel like I'd run a marathon after finishing a show each night. So that was the most challenging, but also the most fun. It came hand in hand. There wasn't a day where I didn't want to go to work and do that show. I just like loved every second of being on stage. It was special. It was special. It's crazy because Bonnie and Clyde did so well, and we obviously did 2 runs. We did the Arts, and then we came back and did the Garrick, and the show was selling out every night. And it was only because they had something else programmed to come in afterwards that we had to finish on the date that we were advertised to. And it's just crazy to think, if that hadn't been programmed, I wonder what life it could have had. How long would it have ran for? And yeah, but also I like doing those short stints because you leave still loving it and wanting to do it, and I think that's important as well.
Yeah. You did. Heathers was a brief time because that was the return from through the pandemic production
I think it was
at
the first show that opened.
It was among them,
pandemic.
certainly.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't going to be at the Haymarket, it wasn't scheduled to be, but I guess it was only Fools and Horses at the time, but they weren't fully ready. A lot of those shows weren't ready to come back, so other things like Be More Chill happened at the Shaftesbury,
That's right.
and Juliet, and Heather's happened. But that was during the time of social distancing still
Yes.
in theatres. I saw the show then, and then I guess that concert version of Hair outside of the Turbine
was
at Battersea on the jetty.
Yeah, that was the first thing I did, actually, post-pandemic. That was... I mean, imagine we've been locked up for 3 months and then suddenly you're in a room with Arlene Phillips and like all of these absolute icons in the industry and you're rehearsing Hair in, I think we rehearsed it in a day and a half. And then we were performing it on a jetty on the Thames and you're like, wait, last week I was like social distancing with my mum in the back garden. How are we here? But that was joyous as well. Like, and I think just the roar of the reaction from an audience who had been locked away for so long to like have that experience of actually having something tangible in front of you and being able to watch something, that was really cool. And then we took it to Norwich, obviously, and did this big production in this big circus tent. And then it came to the Palladium, which I couldn't do because I was doing Heather's. So that was a shame to miss out on that. But love that show. I would love to do a longer stint of that, I think.
I was about to say, is there any role, maybe Hair, maybe Fabrizio, that you would love to revisit in a more substantial
I would say
capacity?
both of those. Yeah. Both of those, definitely. And also Batboy. Batboy's mad and bonkers, and it's not for everyone. But there's something about Batboy that gets me. It was one of the shows I did when I was training at Mount View. And I just love Larry O'Keefe's writing, and his music is amazing. And I would love to do a longer stint of that. I'm thinking maybe like a little Halloween month run somewhere would be really cool with the same people. Victoria Hamilton, get her back. Jodie, like that could be a cool little.
We're ready to produce it, is what I hear from this conversation.
Yeah, or you can produce it with me.
One of us will make it happen. Listen, but yeah, I don't know Batboy very well.
Did you see the concert at the Palladium?
No, I haven't had a chance.
Yeah.
They're about to do it they're doing another concert version in New York. But what I do know is that the people who do know that show love that show. It has this real cult following.
It's crazy. It's about a bat who was the product of a woman sleeping with a bat.
Yeah.
I mean, what more could you want from a musical, right?
Exactly. I mean, this is why musicals were created.
You can create a musical about anything, I think we've discovered from Batboy. Yeah.
Which brings us beautifully into a conversation about you being a creative multi-hyphenate, not just acting and belting the B-flats on stage, but you are writing your own musical, which is in development, which you workshopped here, which I got to come and see, which was lovely, which is called Redcliffe. Tell us a little bit more about the show and maybe why you wanted to write the show.
Yeah, so I started writing about 2.5 years ago now, nearly 3 years ago. And it was at a time when I was going to see a lot of theatre, and honestly, as brutal as it might sound, there was a lot of things I was watching and leaving feeling slightly deflated or just kind of wondering, seeing the potholes in pieces of theatre, which to me seemed quite evident in how to fix. And I think it was then that I started really tapping into this creative side of my brain. And I have originated quite a few shows now. So I think with that comes the responsibility of essentially being a creative in a sense, because it's very collaborative most of the time. The director and the writers are taking on your opinions of things, even, dialogue change, the way scenes flow, structural things. So I think I've always kind of like used this creative side of myself. And then it was when I was going to see lots of shows and kind of wondering how they maybe got to that place when maybe I wasn't as taken by the pieces. That I was just talking to my partner and he said, I think you should start writing something. You're clearly very passionate about this side of the industry as well. Find a subject matter that you're interested in. I knew I wanted to write something about the LGBT community because it's close to me, and I feel like it's also something that I've never really explored in the work that I've done. not very much. So I wanted to write a story, and I also knew I wanted to write a true story, because everything I watch when I'm at home, TV, movies, I love to watch something that is based on a true story. I just feel more connected to it knowing that somebody has lived this experience. So then I did my research, and it was just by chance I found this article the same week had been discovered in the Bristol Museum, and it was about these two men, William Critchard and Richard Arnold, who had this secret relationship back in the 18th century. At a time when it was punishable by death to be gay. And I won't detail what happens in the article because I don't want to give too much away, but there was something in the article that really took me, and I just started by writing a song and showed it to my partner, and he said, "This is really good, you should continue." And then I just kind of evolved from there and locked myself away for the next year and wrote this piece, and it developed it. And at one stage I was going to get a book writer, and just kind of fell into writing the scenes around it because I could kind of see structurally how it would flow. And then it just happened that I ended up writing the book, music and lyrics, which I did not anticipate doing before. But now I'm actually glad that I stuck with, because I feel like I know what this piece is. And it's come on so much, even since the workshop that you came to watch. Like, that was really integral, doing that workshop and getting the response from people and the things that people really loved and the things that maybe didn't quite make sense. And it's all part of the process and ironing out this what will hopefully eventually be a successful piece of theatre. So yeah, right now we're in development. It will be happening. We're hoping to announce shortly when exactly and where, but yeah, it's on the horizon. Yeah.
Has it been interesting sort of seeing the industry from a different vantage point as a writer and trying to sort of profile your own work and champion that and try and get interest in it, etc.?
Yeah, definitely. What's interesting is, like, obviously nobody cares about your work as much as you do. Mm-hmm. So people can love it, and like producers and theatres who have shown lots of interest over these last few years. But you're the one that's really pushing it because it's my baby, it's my creation, and I can see the end product so clearly in my head. So that's been insightful. And also segueing from being an actor into being a writer, I think it's a really unusual stance that I have on being a creative, is that I can take into consideration the performers as well as the piece, and that's not me saying that most creatives don't. A lot of the time that is the way, but I think it's understanding what an actor needs in a piece has really helped my evolution of writing it and fleshing out the roles. And I would like to think the characters in Redcliffe are very well developed and meaty at where we're at right now. And I think that's because I've placed myself in each of them and thought, what would I need from this? Is this making sense to me? How did I get here from the previous scene? What's happened? You know, all of those things, which I think maybe if I hadn't been an actor, people would maybe slightly take for granted. So it's been, it's been a whole experience, and it's still ongoing.
I'm very excited to see where it goes. You played one of the roles. You played William in the version that I saw. Is that something that you have always envisioned? Is it just the easiest thing to do right now? Are you going to be the Lin-Manuel Miranda of Hamilton when this arrives at its final destination?
I'd love to be the Lin-Manuel Miranda, absolutely.
Yeah.
I definitely wrote that character based around myself, and especially my vocal. But that's not saying that other people won't. I wouldn't see other people doing it. I absolutely would. And there's also been conversation along the road of into switching up the role and maybe me playing the other character, dependent on who we get for each role. I could kind of like slip into either. I would definitely love to be involved in the production. I just think and I imagine that's also why Lin-Manuel Miranda put himself in his productions. It's so cool to write something and see it come alive in front of you, but to write something and also be living in it is like a whole unique experience. And the workshop that we did, it was really challenging being on stage and performing it whilst also making mental notes of the piece and trying to remember, like, okay, I need to tell her to maybe deliver the line in this way tomorrow. Okay, this bit I should probably cut. This isn't quite reading. whilst also focusing on your performance. It's a whole thing. It's like literally doing this. And but I kind of loved that feeling, and I found it quite addictive. So I would love to do that on a larger scale, in a full production of the piece. So yeah, I would say the plan is to still remain in the show.
Yeah, exciting, as you should. And I mean, Lynn, it's a good point, because similarly, he had to decide at a certain point if he was going to be Hamilton or if he was going to be Burr. There was a school of thought at one point, I think I read, or I've just made that up. But yeah, he had to decide which one he was going to end up doing from workshopping that material. It'd be really interesting if you ended up in the other role.
That's the thing. There are so many wonderful actors that we've been discussing for both roles. And the role of William that I played, there's actually so many people that I think would be just so wonderful. So it really all depends on logistics, who we manage to end up with, and working myself around that, I think. Because like I said, I feel like I could lean into either.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Watch this space.
Is it a gift as an actor or as a writer to have another actor step into a role that you've created, either literally written or something that you helped to develop, like Tom Francis went into and Juliet? There's just been a cast change at Titanique.
That's crazy.
Is that like so interesting to go back and see how they do things differently, or is it like, oh, I suppose you could make that choice?
No, I love it. I love when people completely change things up and don't recreate what's done before, because I'd like to think that that's how I work. Yeah. And I know that Richard Carson is in Titanic at the moment, which I'm hoping to go and see soon. And I've heard that he is entirely different in his approach to the role. He firstly does it British, which is great. He's also a heterosexual man, which I think what comes with that is a completely different insight into who Cal is. I mean, the way I played him, I think, was very metrosexual, edging on homosexual.
A little bit, yeah.
But that's also because that's what the script gave me, and that's how I envisaged him. But so it will be really interesting to see a more masculine take on that role. And I love seeing people do the roles I've done before. I think I saw Heather's like 3 times after I did the production, and everybody who I saw in it was fantastic. And yeah, it's really cool, especially the jobs that you originate, like you said, to have created this character and fleshed out who he is. And then the next person that comes along takes what they need from from what you've given, and maybe says, oh, actually, I didn't quite, that bit's not aligning with how I feel I would portray it. And then you go and watch it and you go, okay, cool, that he kept that bit that I did. That's interesting. Oh, but he's doing this, which actually really reads. It's not, I would never have thought of doing it like that. Yeah. It's really cool to see people have their own take on things. Yeah, no, it's exciting.
Yeah. And then as someone who is writing their own musical, how fitting for you to be playing a composer here in Saving Mozart.
I know, that is kind of
at the Other Palace. What is the thing that you are most excited about once the show gets on its feet?
I'm really excited to see the reaction from people that come. I think it's really hard, and I've had this with every show that I've ever been a part of, originating, is there comes a stage in the rehearsal process where you're really unsure of how people are going to take it. And we had it with everything. I mean, and Juliet, Bonnie and Clyde, everything. There was a stage in and Juliet where we thought it was maybe going to be a flop in rehearsals, because we were like, God, are people going to get this? Is it too much that Juliet's singing "Hit Me Baby One More Time" at the beginning of after Romeo's died? Like, could this be the cringiest thing ever? And then I remember that first show in Manchester, the reaction, we were like, okay, cool, this is a hit. So I think that's what's really exciting and scary about originating anything. And we're in that place right now where we think the piece is really great, and there are so many fantastic moments and so many bops, and the talent on stage is wild, where it could totally take off and become like the next Six, So I'm apprehensive and excited to just kind of gauge the reaction from the audience. I think that's the place where my head is at right now with the piece. I believe in it so much, and it's like it will change. We're going into previews, and over the next week or so, things will change and things will be cut, and that's just part of the process. So yeah, this is why I love originating new work. That feeling of like the unknown is it's quite addictive as well. It's cool. Yeah.
equal parts Glee and Terror, by the sounds of
That's
it.
it, Glee and Terror.
Yeah.
That's the name of a show, I think.
Probably, yeah.
Should be.
It should be, yeah. I'm very excited to come and see the show, but I'm also really excited for audiences to discover it and for it to find its fans, like
So-
everything else.
Yeah, and also educate people, for people to educate themselves on this time period and Mozart, which we're not taught about in school. You know, this show opened in Austria to rave reviews, and people went absolutely crazy for it. And people there are taught about this in school. Everybody kind of is familiar with the story of Mozart, so it will be really interesting to see how that transcends over here. And I imagine 90% of the audience won't know much about his life. So it's always exciting teaching people. And it's the same with Hamilton. A lot of people here wouldn't have known anything about Hamilton. So I love being, like I said, I love being involved in things which actually happened, like true stories. That's kind of my niche, except for Heather's. I wouldn't say that's a true story.
It's
just a
true to someone.
Yeah, true to some.
Yeah. Well, break a leg this summer in Saving Mozart. Thank you for taking the time to chat to me about it.
Thank you so much.
For 10 more seconds, I'm MickeyJoTheatre. Oh my god, hey. Thanks for watching. Have a stagey day. Subscribe!